Welcome to my first episode ever of Nuance Conversations. We will be looking at social identity in particular. So heritage, race, nationality, and ethnicity.
What is color though? What does it even mean? Where does it come from?
Identity gives a certain kind of confidence.
I've always kind of struggled to identify or put myself in a category.
When you speak of identity, it is a culmination of all these beautiful things.
I identify as a Zulu black woman.
I'm a Congolese South African.
I identify as black colored.
I'm still working out what I identify as, to be honest, but a white South African.
Hello everyone, my name is Mahotsa M and welcome to my first episode ever of Nuance Conversations, where we do just that. We have some nuance in our conversations, where we look at the fine print, the details that tend to go missed that contribute to the narrative of the story. And today we are talking about identity. Now, identity is quite a vast topic, but we will be looking at social identity in particular. So heritage, race, nationality, and ethnicity. So we'll be focusing on those today. I'm obviously not going to be having this conversation by myself. I have my lovely, wonderful guests, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. So we're going to start here and go down all the way to this gentleman on my right.
Hi guys, how are you? Thank you for hosting me. My name is Ngobile, my surname is Wimalo. I'm from KZN, Washabisa. I identify as a Zulu black woman. I professionally am a fashion stylist and fashion designer. And that's why I am really. And a mom.
That's fantastic. A lovely mom at that. And now we're going to move on to our next beautiful guest in orange.
Hi everyone, my name is Celine Narkin and I'm also from KZN. I'm a theatre maker, writer, director. Most of my work is mainly focused on identity, creating spaces for people to feel like they belong and express themselves. Actually, my work and my personal life kind of link because it's mainly about identity. So I'm very excited to be here and to have this conversation.
And if you don't mind me asking, would you identify as?
I identify as black colored.
Okay, black colored. Thank you, Celine. And we're going to move on to our next one with the beautiful kissing blue eyes.
My name is Garian. I'm an actor based in South Africa. I was born in KZN, grew up in Johannesburg. And I'm still working out what I identify as, to be honest, but a white South African.
Of course. And I love this movie of yours I absolutely adore. It's called The Drop. I personally loved
She was great. She was great. Non-actress.
Hi, my name is Harmony Ketelondi. I was born in the Congo, raised in South Africa, so I'm a Congolese South African. I want to say actor, but I'm next to like a professional. I'm an MC, I'm a CV presenter, creative and entrepreneur, businessman, economist, so much more, but I identify more as a child of God.
Hallelujah. Praise God. Now, guys, my next question. So what I'm going to do now, so this is my cue cards. We're in the digital age. And I'm going to break down the definition of heritage, ethnicity, race, and nationality. And also, I know it's going to be a bit like I'm reading, right? But I think it will help for what we're talking about today. So the definition of heritage: the cultural traditions, history, customs, and values passed down through family or ancestors. Ethnicity: a group identity based on shared culture, language, ancestry, history, or traditions. Race: a social category often based on physical characteristics such as skin color and certain inherited traits. Nationality: legal membership in a country, usually through citizenship or birth. Now, also culture as well. It's also quite an umbrella term, right? But I just want to also just add that Culture was basically the customs, values, behaviors, and practices a person participates in, which may differ from their ethnicity, right? So I asked you guys to tell me what you identify as. So according to those definitions, I mean, with you, Nolile, I mean, your heritage, your ethnicity, nationality, oh, you think so boxes.
And for me, it's so crazy being Zulu the way I am. I'm a Zulu from KZN, and the area where I come from, my great parents originate from there. So I still live in the very same land that, like, five generations, six generations down, like, lived, settled there, and kind of just like been there. And I grew up from there, and I still go back to there. And I think with that an identity, I think having that type of identity gives a certain kind of confidence. Like being able to know yourself that deep for me has been very helpful in like my growth as a human being, because even if sometimes I don't understand, I can just call my dad, who was raised by his dad, who was around his grandfather, to be like, what did your grandfather say about this going back? So it's always like such a close connection of who I am.
Oh man, that is like lovely. I don't know what words to say, but knowing your history and knowing it in detail, that you exist differently in the world, don't you?
I think so, actually.
Okay.
Too. Because I even when I go home, I feel, and I mean, I'm in Johannesburg, where it's like the land of anybody. You do not belong here, man.
I'm from a Joburg, but it's not about me.
I mean, we do identify as Joburg because we've taken it over, because it's the land of no one. It belongs to no one. You can belong to Johannesburg. So with that, also, every time I come back from KZN, I always have this new bout of, well, I come from where I belonged to.
Okay.
So it's like the deep sense of belonging.
Thank you so much for that answer. I'm going to move on to Celine now, and I also want to ask you the same question. So, what are you basing your answer from? So, when I ask you, what do you identify as, or where you're from, are you taking your heritage in mind, your nationality, your ethnicity, your race? What informs how you answer that question?
For me, when I answer the question about what I identify as and why, I identify as colored because that's how I grew up. You know, came from a colored community. But for example, I can remember you were colored, you know. And then when I grew up, I think I was in matric, and I started doing more research about, you know what, and I started questioning my identity. Like, what is colored though? What does it even mean? Where does it come from? Who created this term? Because why is it so separate? Because if I'm watching TV, I see people in America who look like me as well. They don't identify colored. So that's where the interest sparked for me. It's like, I want to know more about this whole colored thing. And then when I started doing more research about what colored is, I realized, how? Colored is black moss. It's the same thing. I don't understand it. It was terms that were created and given to us. So for me, it's one and the same thing. The suffering, the history that we come from is the same. In fact, it's like, you know, it's even more sad for me when I say it, because it's like, I'm sad that I have to, you know, now choose between the two. I don't want to choose between the two. I am both, because I was taken away from my blackness as a colored person, and I'm back to embrace that. So I'm very proud to say I'm black, and I'm also very proud to say that I'm a colored person.
Because colored also speaks to a culture, right?
Very much so. It's definitely a culture that was created, though, because remember, these people were taken from who they are, pushed into one community, said, you guys are all the same, deal with it. And from them, we've created our own culture. You know, there are certain cultures in different colored communities that people can relate to. Like, for example, I can't really connect to a Cape Colored the way I connect to a Durban Colored, because the culture's so different, because we grew up so different there, you know. In KZN, we don't even speak Afrikaans. We speak, there's English and Zulu there. Like if you ask colored cousin from KZN, why are you speaking Afrikaans? Because we don't know it, because it was never introduced to us. Whereas if you go to Cape Town, that is mainly what they speak. So there is a difference even within the colored community on culture and how we grew up. No colored person is the same. Even my own siblings, they have different dads and different moms. They all mix so differently to me that they have their own things that they follow and my own things that I follow as well. Even with you colored families as well, you get someone that falls more on the black side and I guess more on the white side, if I can say that. But yeah, it's definitely a very fluid identity or term. You know, there's not one thing that is colored. It's very different.
Thank you so much for that, Celine. Yeah, I think that's so interesting what you're saying, that even in a colored community, there's different subgroups within that.
Yes.
Depending on where you live. Not just in South Africa, Zim as well, Zambia. Zambia has colored people as well, right? Namibia?
In countries that have
Okay,
the term
the term colored in
Yeah.
Africa. So thank you so much for that. I'm also learning because I always thought every colored speaks Afrikaans. So when I'm seeing you and I'm like, hoe gaan dit met jou? And you're like, hey, I was watching.
That's not I know, no, not at all. And it's crazy because I'm not dismissing Afrikaans. Like Afrikaans has its own history with colored people, especially in Cape Town. But not dismissing it at all. It is part of the colored community, but it's part of the Cape and the mainly Joburg colored community because of history. But it's in Durban, it's so different because colonization there happened differently. You know what I'm saying? So even our mix is so different. Like the colors mainly in Cape Town, you would see that there's some that are Malays, there's some that are mixed with Khoisan G. We'll talk about Khoisan another time, but the real term is like But yeah, that's the actual term. So those people are mainly mixed with that. Like my dad, he's like, if you look at him, you would see, this is Khoisan man, you know, you can see that. Whereas the people from Durban, they know nothing about that, you know. We'd find that our mixed is more on the Zulu side.
And Indian as well, right?
Indian
There's
is
a-
Indians, a lot of Indians and stuff like that in Durban. So we connect with that more than we do with, you know, the way Cape Town people connect with being colored. But because the Cape colors are more and they are shown more, people think all colored people are like that, you know. So representation really does matter.
It's very important. Celine, thank you. I've learned a lot already from this conversation. Thank you so much. And now we're gonna move on to Garian. You know, my favorite actor. Well, one of.
Not take back.
I'm the favorite. So yes, Garian, tell me, what did you answer? So when I'm asking you where you're from, what did you base it off?
I mean, you know, to answer the question a little bit differently, my great-grandfather moved here from Ireland. But I grew up very oblivious. I mean, I was born in 96. And I have a dad from KZN who went to agricultural boarding school. So he learned Zulu and he speaks fluent Zulu. He sang a Zulu song at my mom's wedding. So like growing up, I was very oblivious to things and I didn't really know where I stood until, you know, we got older and we learned more about history in school and, you know, getting into the industry and being the token white boy in a lot of places and a lot of sets. So that's why I think I've always kind of struggled to identify or put myself in a category. And in a way, I envy, you know, what you were talking about, that identity and that home. Because even if I went back to Ireland, I'm still a foreigner there. You know, I don't. It's like there's a joke about Irish people saying like they meet people from overseas and they go, "Oh, I'm Irish," and it's like, yeah, well, everyone I've met my whole life is Irish as well. You know? So yeah, I mean, at this stage, I call myself a white South African with an Irish surname.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Okay, I'm gonna ask you more questions actually, Karen, actually I wanna ask you more. But I'll move on to Harmony as well. Harmony, tell me, what did you base your answer off of?
Wow. I I think I just wanted to get people to understand the context in which I get to find myself in. I was born in Congo, and when I was around 3 years old, my family moved to South Africa, and so South Africa is kind of like the only place that I know of, like growing up. So my Congolese tribe. There's a tribe in Congo called Muluba. So it's like the Zulus, like the equivalent of the Zulu. Ndota, it's like that's the tribe. So I'm a Mwanambok, I'm Congolese, but at the same time I'm Tona Sekaya, because I grew up in Joburg. I combat for taxis. I, ate kotas and the chips from the lady with the plastic.
You're part of
that
the
is
culture.
that is the culture that I grew up in. That is what I know. That is who I am. I don't even know how to explain ish or papa. Like what is the English word for that? But I understand it. Do you get what I'm saying? And so when you speak of identity, it is a culmination of all these beautiful things that make you, including your history, your personal history, and then the history of your heritage, your parents, and the people you call your people. And I think there's such a beauty in we like to say, oh, I'm unique, I'm different, we have our fingerprints, that's all different, but there's a beauty in differences. And so just like the body, the eye can't say, oh, I'm better than the finger, or I'm better than the toes, because without the toes, you won't be able to stand properly, but without the eyes, you can't see, without the nose. So if we are better together than apart, and once you are able to recognize your uniqueness and be happy with who you are and how beautiful you are as an individual, you can also then appreciate the beauty of the other person who's different, and you can find a way for you to work together in order to become, I guess, what we call the rainbow nation. Yeah, so I identify that, and I think, but more importantly, I think I identify more with God.
Okay.
Being the creator of everything. And that's where my true identity comes from, more than where I was born or where I grew up or what language I speak, what color my skin is.
Now the citizen of heaven, baby.
You know what I'm saying? Come on, somebody. And the weird thing is that I didn't understand I was black until I was in high school. Like I knew there were people who were different colors. I just felt like it's the same thing as like some people are tall, some people are short, some people are black, some people are white, some people are colored. Well, it's like okay, that's just your skin color. Some people are big, some people are small. God is creative like that, but I didn't understand what the nuances the world, assigned to people of different colors, of different races and stuff like that until I was in high school. Then it's like, whoa, oh, he crazy. Like,
That's so funny because I remember seeing my first white person. I come from a village. I call it the countryside because it's really like beautiful houses, just everything's beautiful. And where I come from, I think we're made of, as children, are perfect at that time. For us, this is where we were born, we were all black. And this is like one of those missionary towns where will come missionary people and there's like a hospital. I remember like being young and like there were these white people cycling. I remember all of us coming up to look at them and just like so amazed. What?
That's so interesting.
The truth, and I didn't see my cousin for a long time after that because I'm schooling here and I'm doing everything here. And I think when I left to Richards Bay was my next white person, and I was like 10 at that time.
That's really interesting.
Like for me, white people were very TV, nothing real, not tangible. We were like, oh my God.
You know that there are parts of Europe, that's like that as well. Even parts of China, parts of Germany, where they come and take pictures with you, and even like there's some people who have never seen like black people, So it's crazy. But you said something that was interesting. You mentioned being a child and that being the first time you saw a white person, and I don't think you had nothing against Omodia. It's just a beautiful thing, and I really like that nuance of children. And you grow up and you're just like,
When my brother was older than me, he would love to be like, what do you want to do when you grow up? And as a child, I'd be like, white person, one of the white people. I can you acquire. That's such a funny memory.
I love how this conversation is going because it's actually moving on to my next point or my next question, right? Well, both. So, two theories that I'm going to present to you guys, right? First theory is the essentialist view. Today I'm doing a lot of reading, guys. I'm so sorry. But it's important. Definitions of things is important. It's very important. The essentialist view. So what the essentialist view says is that essentialism is the belief that things, including people, identities, or culture groups, have a fixed and changing essence, a set of core characteristics that define them. Essentialist view also believes that culture is something pure, authentic, and unchanging, rooted in history and/or biology. And then we have a sociologist by the name of Stuart Hall. And what he says is that Hall explored how identity is not fixed or essential, but fluid, constructed, and constantly evolving. He goes on to say that identity is shaped through representation, language, memory, and differences. It's not about recovering a lost pure identity, but understanding how identities are formed through history, struggle, and negotiation. Our identities are also positioned by history, power, and social structures like colonialism. I can't say the word, but in South Africa, we know it very well.
colonialism.
Thank you. English. English is not my first language. And then Hall emphasized the hybrid nature of identity, created at the intersections of cultures. And I also just want to quote something that he says. He's famously known for saying this: culture identity is a matter of becoming as well as being. It belongs to the future as much as it does the past. So I'm going to start with Ngobile. Ngobile Wumalo. I love saying your name, friend.
It's amazing. It's like also such Kozulu.
Ngobile. Ngobile Wumalo. It's Ninga Titegi. Oh. Ngobile Wumalo. Why am I Tite? I'm like, I'm ruining your name. I'm like, whoa, what's happening? But yeah, no, so according to what we read, so what do you say? Do you believe that identity, social identity, is more like the essentialist view, that it's unchanging? Or do you believe that identity evolves with time? Or do you believe in a combination of both?
That is a very interesting perspective because I again come from such like a cultural background. Like my great grandfather was the chief, and my great grandmother from my mom's side, from my dad's side was the chief. From my dad's side, my mom's side, was like a princess, a Zulu princess. So I come from like a family who would rather not like shift from where they come from because of what they stood for. In a world that is ever so evolving, the world is evolving very much. Even like the principles and the rule. I come from a very principled family, but the principles are taking shape and they are changing. They are forcing us to accept that to be in the future, some of our past will be erased, which is, I think, is very difficult for typical Zulu people to accept to that because of how core our tradition is. And I think we, as a collective, as Zulu people, we definitely would like it not to change as fast as it's changing because of where it's coming from.
So we would say that preservation is important.
Preservation is very, very important. Preservation is important for, I think, as a society, we are in this space of like hyper evolving. And by hyper evolving, I'm saying hyper because it's very influenced with technology. And the past was not as technological as is now. It was very manual. It had it was still feeding very deep with like the nature that we live in. I mean, when we talk about identity, we cannot run away from nature. We are nature, you see. So there's so much responsibility from us also as human beings not to run away from nature. But I say this because I understand where I come from. I have people, friends that I know that, like, if you were born in Johannesburg City, you can never understand what I say. And you will never be able to understand what I'm saying because the past is very 10 years ago. And when I'm talking about the past, I'm talking about, like, there's this family thing that my great grandfather used to do, who was taught by his father. And when I had like hold to that those bottles that they used to do the art pieces on, and I actually think of how long this thing, like how long it like has it been on Earth? It's almost like over 300 years. I have a history of myself for over 300 years. That is not a lot of people. It's not a lot of people. So for me, the preservance for me and for other Zulu people comes from there. It comes from 3 years. You're not talking about 30 years. We're talking about 300 years. You see, even beyond, there's some people that have information and like things from that time that when they look from, like, for example, I was like with my great grandmother passed away when I was 9. So I was born into her and I was her favorite. So she told me about a lot of things that I'm supposed to pass on, or my mother, as now the grandmother, is supposed to pass on. But my mother is definitely not like that because we've evolved. Like, we no longer sit and tell stories. I come from a background where we sat and were told stories. Like, I have a lot of stories. Like, stories sashada, ngisazi nomlomo, because this, I'm not reading it from the book. Like, the book is a perspective of the white man. This is what happened, you know? And and how my dad speaks of Ushaga and everything that was happening. He was a prophet for them, you know? It's a big deal. So it's very, very difficult for me and a lot of other Zulu people to kind of like just glaze off that, because if we glaze off now, we are in type of like a crossroad type of time where it's like, if we glaze over now, we will lose a lot of things we were supposed to
Yeah. So from what you're saying, so you find you feel like it's important to preserve culture, you know, and it tells you a lot of who you are and where you come from. However, evolving is inevitable. It's a part of us as human beings.
It is inevitable because, for example, I am Zulu, proud Zulu, but I'm in the world. I date Tonga men, they're my favorite. And so my child is dating Zonga, so you know what I mean? That is immediately like also just really changing a perspective of my identity, because my identity is also now has to take shape to understand my child's identity.
Because it's not the same as yours.
It's not. And so for her to be able to understand her identity, I need to not be too biased, but with my own identity. Like, I mustn't favor my identity to be like the best identity. I must involve and be like, okay, when I get more kumshangane, namashangane inside kanje. And especially Zulu in KZN, like, right, I mean, so we all know how we all feel about being Zulu and like those mixtures that we're coming in now as like this generation of Zulu women who are traveling. I mean, before also like women, we would like in KZN it's just Zulu people and white people that don't speak Afrikaans. So it's just white speaking, Zulu speaking, space. And so to now come and be like, well, Tina is Kulmistoga. They've never heard it. It's very foreign for them. And that's why, and unfortunately, with a human being nature, we hate what we don't understand. We are scared of things we don't understand. We just shine away from things we don't understand. So it's very she's ununderstandable, and I need to understand and help her blend her identity to this identity. Okay. So yeah.
Thank you, friend, for that. Sorry, I mean, we're shooting for a talk show, so I'm like, okay, let's make sure we still have enough time. It's not a podcast, but it might just turn into one, who knows? So, thank you, Mobile, for that. That was very detailed and nuanced, right? Like, yeah, very layered. Ngiyabonga, mngani wami. Celine, so what do you fall under? Do you fall under Stuart Hall's theory that, identity is ever evolving, or do you think it stays the same?
I definitely agree with Stuart. Thank you, Stuart, for that, because again, as a colored person, it's forever changing. The more I find out about myself, the more it changes. There was a time in my life where I just thought colored was colored, and there's nothing deeper, to being colored. Because I would ask my parents, but what is colored? And just tell me, just keep quiet. You don't need to know. Like it was like offensive to ask, what it was, until I decided to do the research and then realized what colored is and the deeper pain and history behind it. And it really changed. It changed my identity, the way I identify. It changed the way I look at life, the way I look at culture. And also, guys, I'm expecting now, and my child is going to be Swati, half Swati. So I also have to navigate the change there as well.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So there's also a new human being that is coming into this world who is going to be of a different culture that I also have to teach them, and also like kind of teach them about me as well. Like the journey of identity has become so personal now to me because I'm about to be a mom. So yeah, I definitely agree with Stuart that it is forever changing. And as people start decolonizing their minds, then especially within the colored community, then I think the idea of identity and culture will also start changing. And I'm so proud of the young colored people because I see a lot of young colored people actually did embrace their blackness more than the older ones. Because with the older ones, it's kind of taboo to talk about being African and embracing your afro or your curls or whatever. Always, for as long as I can remember, I would have the elders make me sit down and then pull out the relaxer. What's it called? Risto Plus. The young koi. Troba. Literally relax your hair, because they used to tell us that you can't go to school with peppercorns. It needs to be straight, And then we have colored people now that are like rebellious. They love their curls, they love their afro, they love their features.
The peppercorn.
That's what they used to call it, peppercorns. And they had many terms for your hair, but yeah. So for me, it's constantly evolving, constantly changing. And because I just had a discovery in my family that I have a lot of Sutu people that I didn't even know existed in my family until last year. We had a family reunion in East London, and I was like, wait, Sutu? What do you mean? I'm from KZN. How Sutu? What language is that? Exactly, like how? And then it goes back to my surname. My surname is Narkin, right? I'd never heard of that surname before. I don't even know where it comes from. When I'd ask my grandmother, what is this surname? Tula. That's all she would say. She took it to her grave, like she closed her mouth and she took it to her grave. That's why I started doing a documentary about it, because I was like, you're hiding something. Only to find out that she changed our surname so that it can sound more English, so she can fit under the colored category back in apartheid and have like an English surname so that she can try and start this colored generation. That is why, as a Narcan, I can't trace back any of my family. But it's only when I started doing research, what is my actual surname? Oh my gosh, I'm connected to this and I'm connected to that. This is my family, this is my family. My grandmother even had kids who are black that she kind of like didn't tell us about until a year before she passed. They came and they came home and they visited and they were like, actually, I'm your granny's son. I'm your granny's daughter. And I'm like, well, they were like, yeah, I'm your uncle's cool. I'm your auntie Sally. We asked my grandma and she's like,
Not Coco's told about
she hasn't been anything. I'm like, lady, you better start talking. Tell us what is going on. She still, even till now, she took everything to her grave. And that's when I was like, no, I'm definitely going to start a documentary about my family because unless, what if I marry my cousin? What's going to happen?
I defaulted. That happens.
I was so confused, but mainly I was really hurt. I mean, for the longest time, if my family sees this, I love you. For the longest time, I was mad at my grandmother because I was like, wait, I hated myself all this time. I hated what I am. Why? How could you make me hate myself so much so that I was even scared to even look at anybody that is black or black guy because I'm like, what if my granny doesn't like them? Lapo, that's all I want. You know, like, I'm like, why is my granny keeping our identity? Like, you know, until I realized that the reason why she did what she did was because the story is not unique. A lot of Black South Africans did that back in the day to try and survive. It was a survival tactic. Even now in the current community, the elders are scared of anything to do with blackness because they still have this fear of colonization thing. They still have this fear that if I identify as black, then things are not going to be okay. People are going to scrutinize before embracing being black or for my blackness. So it is, being colored is really, it's a really sad thing. As much as people make it look cool, like, oh, you this, you that, you colored, you gangster, you this, it's really not.
Thank you so much for watching part 1 of Nuance Conversations, where we're looking at identity. Make sure to tune in for part 2 because it's coming.